Wojciech Brzeziński, science journalist at Tygodnik Powszechny. Hello, sir, and welcome to TVP World.
Hello, good morning.
So, now, having in mind that now we are facing a very difficult situation, and I have to bring something very curious now to the table, because since Prime Minister Donald Tusk took office in December of 2023, Poland has experienced a drastic surge in distributed denial of service attacks. So, and these attacks also spiked over Christmas, has remained elevated with more than 5,000 total attacks recorded, for instance, in January alone. So why do you think that we see this surge in attacks? What is the motivation behind it?
It's not just Poland. We're seeing that same pattern repeating itself all over Europe, and not just Europe, basically all of the countries that are part of this Western coalition in support of Ukraine are dealing with elevated levels of cyber attacks. Now, DDoS attacks, the distributed denial of service attacks, are just the tip of the iceberg. They are basically the most primitive type of cyber attacks that we can deal with, that basically just simply mean that hundreds or thousands of devices try to log into a server at the same time, blocking that server, trying to disrupt a website's capabilities to reach out to its audience. So that's a very simple, very quick and dirty attack. But we've seen attacks that are far more concerning, that deal with critical infrastructure, that deal with information infrastructure, like the cyber attack, the alleged cyber attack that we've seen 3 days ago at the Polish press agency. What happened there was unprecedented and shows that the threat from these attacks is very real, and those attacks are very much a part of a concentrated hybrid warfare approach that's targeting all of Europe and especially Poland.
Right, like you mentioned, we are looking at the infrastructure and even information structure being targeted in this unprecedented attack. And I think this is especially close to home, as we work very closely with the Polish press agency when it comes to information and intel gathering. And we've been asked from our head of our newsroom to double check, triple check, quadruple check to make sure that our information is valid. And of course, with a wide scale attack on these sort of structure, what suggestions could you give us when it comes to kind of repelling these type of attacks, or making sure that we ourselves don't come across these type of cyber warfare?
Now, there's very little we can do when it comes to DDoS attacks. Those things are mass attacks that target a particular server, particular website. So there's really nothing that a user can do to mitigate the damage from those. But then again, we are usually not the target. What we can do is pay particular attention to emails that can potentially contain malicious links, malicious software that could be used to take over our computers, steal our data. So-called phishing and spear phishing attacks have become quite a bit of a problem, and are especially big of a problem in those attacks targeting critical infrastructure, information infrastructure, because the attackers do not send out phishing emails just to everyone. The spear phishing methodology means that they're looking for people in particular fields, people with particular experiences that potentially can grant them access to very sensitive data, very sensitive networks. We believe that's what happened at the Polish press agency, where probably an infected device of one of the employees was used to access the network and broadcast a fake message, a piece of fake news to all of Polish media. So that's a clear demonstration of how important it is to stay vigilant and to at a private level even just make sure that we are not naive, that we do not fall victim to scams, to people who are trying to trick us into opening the doors and letting the attackers into our private data and the corporate networks that we might have access to.
Certainly, so staying vigilant is definitely key here. Now, when talking about cybersecurity and cyber attacks, we cannot forget now hacktivists, if I may say so. Now, the pro-Russian hacktivist group, no name 057, has been particularly reactive, targeting various sectors, including government administration, transportation, finance, air transport. We witnessed this in Poland, that we had some weird sounds in Russian, for instance, now in the Pomorze region in Poland. So do you think that there are any specific targets chosen by these hacktivist groups? Do you see any patterns here?
Hacktivists are usually more of a nuisance than an actual threat. The targets they choose are mostly targets of opportunity, say websites that have been improperly safeguarded against attacks. So they will try to look at to look for easy targets because they do not have the same capabilities as, say, professional government-employed hackers do. So the one thing is that any website that does not have good security, that does not have proper security measures in place, can potentially be a target. And obviously, with any pro-Russian activities, any websites concerning government activities, government-run companies, government agencies, local governments, or companies that are involved in aid for the Ukrainian war effort or humanitarian aid in Ukraine are potentially targets. We've seen that pattern repeat itself from basically since February 2022, even before that. So clearly, again, the target is to sow distrust, sow fear, to make people concerned that the infiltration, Russian infiltration, is far greater than it actually is. That's one of the main goals: distrust.
All right. You mentioned earlier that maybe these hackers might be more of a nuisance than anything that's really that threatening, as opposed to the professional hackers. And we do see a lot of these more sophisticated hacking attempts with like zero-day exploits, where it does involve a lot of more kind of sophistication when it comes to carrying out these activities. Is that a sign that we can point to kind of highlight the fact that the Russians are pumping a significant amount of money into making this work?
Oh, very much so. We've seen reports from NASC, the National Academic Computer Network. That's the government agency that's basically responsible for safeguarding internet in Poland. They say that they've seen many attacks against critical infrastructure in Poland coming from a group called APT28. Now, APT28 is a very well-known hacker group that's considered a part of the Russian military intelligence service. It's actually been identified by the United States government as the GRU Unit 26165. Now, we've seen those hackers being involved in many of the most critical hacking operations of the last 10 years. They were the ones behind the American Democratic National Committee hacking in 2016. They were involved in hacking the Emmanuel Macron presidential campaign a couple of years ago. They were involved in hacking devices used by Ukrainian servicemen that allowed Russian forces to target Ukrainian artillery units on the front lines. So we've seen them in many highly sophisticated, highly destructive attacks throughout the years. The fact that they're targeting Poland now isn't surprising, but still should be a cause
especially as Poland has been a staunch supporter of Ukraine and is the first one in line now to help it. Thank you so much. And now, Wojciech Brzeziński, for sharing your insights. Thank you for coming to TVP World.